Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese, episode 350. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Zellner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. Matt, all you gotta do is say that something needs something, and then it gets announced. More on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 later, a lot later. I don't mean that it will happen a lot of time later, just mean we have a lot in this show.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a lot of news this week. We've got a lot of games to talk about this week.
Mm-hmm.
We've got our Hall of Fame pick to talk about this week, as chosen by me, you, and one Mark Augustiniak. But first, how's Matt doing?
You know, it's another week of quarantine. I'm not going stir crazy. I'm just playing games, minding my own business, doing a little bit of work that I have to do. And that's it.
Nice. I watched the Gordon Ramsay's 24 Hours to Hell and Back.
Ah, the one nearby. The one in Ellicott City.
I kept hearing that he went to Ellicott City, and did you watch that episode yet?
No, not yet.
It was good. It was like a 2-hour thing, and he starts off the episode, and he's just like, hey, this is not about some fucking dirtbag chefs who don't keep their kitchen clean. This is a fucking city that got fucked up, and I'm going to help
twice.
Fix it. Right, yeah. So they go into that, and they draw out all those emotional beats and stuff. But yeah, like a couple weeks ago, we finished whatever episodes were there. Because that show is just good background noise. You know what I mean? You put it on, you hear him yell at some people, and then you look at how pretty the restaurant looks after the fact, and then you watch something else.
But you're more there for the yells, I think.
It's more to see, like, really, I don't need the middle stuff. It's just the beginning and ending. Like, just show me how fucked up it was, and then show me the end.
Yeah, you can pretty much fast forward the episodes to when he launches his truck big screen, and just that little 2-minute montage. I just need that, and then maybe some
opening night,
some moments where they're going through the kitchen and how bad it is, and then
because usually you need that shot of him holding up a bag of a dripping sauce.
Look at it.
Yeah.
Look at it.
How the fuck? It's that kind of thing. You just need...
It's raw.
It's good. It's odd to me. It's always odd to me because, like, Maryland, Baltimore never really gets... Like, no one gives a fuck, right? But it, like, people sort of give a fuck.
Our food scene's good, man. I think we get mad props on the food scene.
But you never hear about that shit. Like, it's not like I'm paying attention to fucking these whatever critics, but I don't know, like when people talk about like destination places, like no one's like, oh dude, I can't wait to go to Baltimore.
No.
I feel like we've seen a little bit of that surprisingly in recent years. Like I remember like random people from Canada like, oh, we're going to Baltimore for vacation. Like just seeing shit on social media but I don't, otherwise who the fuck's coming here? But the fact that Gordo's out there in Ellicott City fixing the world.
Yeah, in my random Warzone encounters with people, and when you ask ASL and you say Baltimore,
sure, yeah,
they but actually I've gotten some positive responses from being from Baltimore, so I don't know.
I really hope you are starting off those fucking just ASL. Oh my god, I'm gonna hold on. Sorry. I like your joke so much that I'm going to steal it and just fucking post it in our group chat to make Ben laugh. There you go.
But yeah, no, people... it's coming through now. I don't know, people, like, they say that if they've come to Baltimore before, they liked it. So, I don't know. It's maybe you guys live here, and we're just used to it. I don't know.
I think we have one of those reputations of being like a scary city in a way, like the same way that I think about like Detroit. But then
Chicago.
But then I haven't been to Detroit, but our friend Tyler's lived in Detroit for years and
still around.
It's fine. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, same thing. I heard the same thing about New York before I went to New York for the first time, and I got off the bus like, the fuck, it's fine. Granted, I think we heard a lot about that stuff from the 90s and 80s when New York was just a giant knife waiting to stab you at every corner. But yeah, other than Gordo, that's kind of the week,
Yeah, no, that's been nothing new.
It's good. It's starting to get hot. So and I feel bad about this, but also you've kind of done this to yourself. But whenever it starts to get hot, I just start getting mad at you inexplicably. Like last night, like having to, like not wanting the fan on just for fun, like having to turn the fan on. I was like, fucking Matt, god damn. Like I gotta start disassociating the two, but it's a total.
You can't. It's synonymous.
Because as I get fucking mad, you get glad, and it's
Yep,
just.
and I'm smiling right now with you just getting triggered, turn on the fan. So
it sucks. It sucks so fucking much.
well, it's the same thing with a cold. Had to
Oh yeah, I know. We
throw on a
trade off
goddamn
in
hoodie
6
and like
months.
fucking goddamn Joe in his goddamn black jeans in summer, idiot.
What a.
They're like the only pair of jeans you have. I'm not shocked you're wearing them,
Dude, surprisingly, I have like 4 pairs of these.
but they're all black.
They're all black.
Yeah, well,
They're all getting completely fucked up though, because every time I leave the house, I come home and strip completely nude and put everything in the washing machine. So all of these jeans are just fucked now. They're just wash. It's fine. Whenever things go back to whatever, I will have to buy a new pair.
yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah, baby steps. We'll see.
We're not us in our county, but we're getting there.
Yeah. Well, I know the state opened up, but then the county was like, nah, dog.
Yeah,
Just keep it.
I blame more the city for that, but yeah,
Yeah. I mean, you know.
it is what it is.
Yep. Keep people safe. Matt, it is one of the 50 number episodes.
Yes.
And as we established a little while ago, every Game of the Year podcast run and every 50th episode, we will induct a new member into the Free Cheese Video Game Hall of Fame. We've slowly refined that process through the years, and our most recent iteration, the thing that's kind of remained solid, generally speaking, has been we each nominate 10 games for a total of 30. We write them all down on sticky notes. We sit across the table from each other, and we slowly stab each other's hearts as we throw sticky notes away. And thanks to Mark for reminding me literally last night, because I forgot and kept putting it off and saying, oh yeah, I got to do that. But so we did that late last night. We had a call and we knocked everything out via a shared note, and we've come up with the final winner. Anything you want to say before? I do want to talk about the top 5, where we got it to top 5 wise, but anything you want to say about the process or any of that along the way?
No, I said it last night. I haven't seen Mark our group chat aside, I haven't really talked to Mark personally. So it was weird whenever I had to stick a knife in him, because I have not been seeing him every week like I normally do. So it felt a little worse than usual.
Yeah.
But besides that, I had no problem taking off your games. And then... no, I do like this process. We've talked about the next iteration of this, which I think I'm more excited to do, but just circumstances prevented us from doing it this time.
Yeah.
We're not going to reveal that one quite yet, but no, I still like this process. I think it's the best way. It's come a long way since we picked the first one, which is Grand Theft Auto 3.
Yeah, that was a tough. Yeah.
No, this is fun. I mean, as much as I look forward to it, it sucks all at the same time, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I thought it was good. I mean, the three of us haven't had a conversation like that in a while. I did. We'll talk about it with now playing stuff, or maybe not. We can talk about it now. I did play some video games with Mark this week, so I got to have verbal. We text each other every fucking day, but just talking. I mean, you and I get to go face to face once a week, which is keeping that going. But yeah, we haven't really talked. But yeah, Mark and I played some Switch Online. Believe it or not, we played a little Super Smash Brothers, and then we switched over, did some of the NES and SNES classic stuff online, because I hadn't done that before.
Yeah.
Really cool. He had talked about it before with he did it with our friend Joe, and just kind of remarked how cool it was that you could play a single player game and then hand off to another player if you wanted to. But we jumped in and we were kind of doing like some of the old NES stuff, the 2-player when it's 2 players, it's technically like one at a time. Like you do your run, and then it passes back to the other player. So we did a couple of those, and then we did do. Now I don't remember anything. I remember we played a fuck ton of Twin Bee on NES, top-down Konami shooter. We did some Mario Brothers. We did a couple things, but that was surprisingly not only fun, but it was cool how well it worked, because I didn't expect it to work that well, except for the voice chat stuff. I can't verify for NES how it was, because by that point we had switched to Discord, but trying to play Smash Online, the only way we figured out how to play together was you had to create a room that people could join, set it to private, friends only, but then if we weren't actively in the ring together, then the voice chat would kick us out of the. So at some point we were just like, Discord. Mark was like, I'm already there. I was like, all right, cool. I'll switch now. And we just stayed on that for the duration. But we did that. We played a little Streets of Rage 4 the night after, which you totally right in that regard. Playing that game with another person is the way to go. I don't have much more to say about it other than that, but But again, it was nice, the 3 of us chatting. And we narrowed it down from 30. The final 5 were Earthbound, Diablo 2, F-Zero X, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and The Legend of Zelda. And of course, it's just kind of, we each go through, we look at the list, and we pick which one we're going to kill next until it narrows it down. I think the moment that was most, the turning point where things got a little weird is when Mark said, okay, let's make this interesting, and he took Legend of Zelda off the board. I went ahead and knocked out Earthbound at that point, and then we got rid of F-Zero X, Diablo 2, and left it to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, the latest inductee to the Free Cheese Hall of Fame. And kind of fitting that it worked out that way. But
yeah, I know you were like, oh, you made that comment, but like as I said, if it wasn't this time, it's always creeped into like the top 5, whatever. Yeah. I think we put in like 3 and 2 at some points as well in this. It was only a matter of time before one of them got in.
Yeah.
The cards kind of fell that way this time. Yeah, I mean, it's deserving of it. It created a whole culture. I don't know, like combine that with like the era of the time. The fact that it is a good game is not just like that. It's not just a soundtrack with some cool skateboarding mechanics. No, it actually is a really good game. I don't think I've ever owned the first game, but I remember playing that warehouse demo so much that like I think I own it at some points. So it's fitting that it came a couple days after a big old announcement that we'll get to later on, but no, it was only a matter of time. I think it is more coincidence more so than than timing.
Yeah, no, it's a happy coincidence for sure, because that game is deserving of that. I still, just as recent, obviously this week I popped it back in, but I still play the game regularly enough. It's just, the levels are solid, the gameplay's solid. Like you said, the soundtrack, not only like such a defining soundtrack, but I know for me, influenced musical taste that then, you know what I mean? Like, you can kind of map back all of my musical taste back to Tony Hawk in some way. Yeah, and it just ignited so much. And it's still good, too. Like, despite, there's a lot of PS1 era games that just have it, they might be revered or they might be beloved, but they're not good. Like, they just don't hold up. This one is one that, is the exception. It's one of the exceptions, for sure.
Yeah, the only thing that's challenging with that game now is when you go and you've played 2 and 3, especially 2 and 3, 4 through and some stuff too, but like the things you're so used to, and we'll talk about this later again in the news, but like the things you've gotten so used to and you try to do them in one, you're like, oh shit, that's right, this one doesn't have it.
Yeah, like manuals.
And reverts.
Yeah.
So, that's the only, I think, challenging part is sometimes your mind got used to the changes, like the good quality of life ones, and then, but no, the controls, it's straight up like one of the easiest things to learn, but then hard to master. It's the perfect combination.
Yeah.
Just like Dota. Easy to learn, hard to master.
Why do you have to take something great and then ruin it, Speaking of which, why don't we talk about the video games we played this week? Did you ruin any video games this week, Matthew?
I did not.
Did you play any Dota this week?
You know what? No. I did launch a game of Underlords.
Oh.
That is completely different.
Yeah. By completely different, do you mean it's still the exact same? They just changed under the hood?
There's all kinds of new systems, new alliances. It's a whole I have to dig myself back into to get into it. I don't even want to talk about it, but that game has changed a lot since. It's the same, but it's different. I don't it is what it is. A quick check in on Warzone. That's still like the ritual every night for me mostly. They changed the solos. Big old update. So I think this was actually live when we recorded last week. I just hadn't played the new solos yet. They're calling it stimulus solos. So what they do, they actually eliminate the gulag from this mode. What they do instead, in team games, the amount to buy back is 4,500. Well, in this game, as long as you have 4,500 on your person, you automatically get a revive. No gulag, nothing. So you can die like 3 times in a game, but as long as you have the money on you or you've collected said money, you are still in the game and ready to go. So you actually start the game at 4,500, but the cool thing about that is like you can keep that and have a guaranteed revive, or you could spend it right away. Like a UAV costs $4,000, so you could use it on that and get like an early advantage recon. You could use it on armor plate, so that way you have all your armor spares ready to go if you get into gunfights. So like there's a risk reward you can do to it. Of course, you can go around and collect money. Finding money, I think, is a lot easier than it is in team-based game with this mode. So like it is almost encouraging like fast-paced play. But yeah, and I think because of that fast-paced play, like I am running around even more so than I did in regular solos and in team play, because like if it's like one of those things, like if you see you have 5,000, like you have a revive. The revive thing does have a counter, so like there is a time limit where you can, just like the gulag does close after a certain time. Your revives will close after a certain time. The thing that sucks about dying though, like if you got your loadout drop, it sucks to die because you don't have your loadout drop anymore and your perks. So like there is risk reward to it depending on where you're at and your gear. But yeah, no, I think I like the change. I think it's gotten mixed reception from the community. But yeah, I don't know. Like as much as I like the gulag, I do like this little deviation for solos. I would not want this in team. No, it just doesn't make sense in team. I makes sense here, but the gulag is such a special thing, in my opinion, that it needs to stay in the modes where you have people. So yeah, I thought it was an interesting change. I'm curious to see how that stays, or if it stays, or whatever. And then also, we'll talk more about it when it comes, but we are about like 2 weeks away from the season ending, this battle pass, and a new one starting, and there's been big rumor changes to the next season, including trios and stuff like that. So more to come with that.
Yeah, that's the thing. I want to see how they keep growing it, and like, what do they do to stay relevant after a season? Like, what is the new thing? I feel like other games in this genre have made a big deal about the season changes. So if they're going to take this one seriously, I'm curious to see what they do. Yeah,
they might have a special skateboarding display in their map from Tony Hawk digitally,
Then you might get me to download it. How big's that install?
500 gigs. I don't know.
Never mind.
Probably. But yeah, no, that's still going on, and I'm going to keep playing that until my hands bleed. I don't know. I just love that a lot. But no, the main thing for me this week is Gears Tactics. Now, I will say that I actually was ahead of the curve for once. I did not make my show notes like 5 minutes in front of the show. I made them like a day ago. Okay. And I had the notes that I had, or still have, I should say, were very leaning negative. But then, after we record our Hall of Fame game, I did not feel like pairing up with randoms at like 12 o'clock at night. So I was like, you know what? I'm in the last chapter of this act. I know it's a boss fight, and I've already tried to play it once, and the game bugged out on me halfway through, and I couldn't progress anything, so I had to restart it anyway. So I was like, you know what, I'll just go in, I'll finish it. Well, I ended up finishing the game, and a lot of those negatives aren't positives, but they are not as bad as I thought they were going to be.
They don't weigh down as heavy as they could have.
Yeah, so the main problem with this game, and this is what I started saying last week, were the side missions. They feel that there's it's just extra padding to put more value into the game, but they don't do anything for you. They can get you more gear, but by the time you start getting so many side missions, I feel like you're getting enough gear anyway, especially if you're exploring the map and picking up those crates that are drops. So it's weird that they just keep padding on these side missions and side missions and side missions. It just feels like filler, and there's no story value out of it. There is slight leveling stuff, but like I said earlier, leveling a character doesn't feel necessary when I can go recruit someone who's already at the current level of the rest of my party. So not even that part is important in my opinion. So it was to the point where I was playing chapter after chapter, and I was just praying after a story mission that the next chapter would just be a story mission again and not side missions. It got that bad. And then when I would see the side missions pop up, ugh, and then turn off my game and just get myself mentally ready to come back to it. And the thing is, they kept ramping up too. So what used to be all right, complete 1 of 2 side missions, and then it ramped up again. It was 2 of 3. But in that last act, they're all 3 of 4, and it's the same objectives. Hell, I was even getting the same maps at times. The enemy loadouts were the enemy scenarios were a little bit different, but it just got so repetitive and so redundant that it was not a fun time. But then when the game ended, well, this is the thing. I thought this would continue because I remember Gears 5 being 5 acts, if I remember. I know it was at least 4. So this game with the acts and chapters, I just kind of assumed it was going to be longer than 3 acts. It's only 3 acts. Now, they're long acts. There's 8 or 9 chapters per act, I believe. But no, it is 3 acts. So me preparing myself for doing this again in the 4th act, it kind of went away when I ended up beating what is the main campaign in this game. I did like the story. It is it's a Gears story. I'm not too involved in the Gears lore. I kind of had to do a little catch up. There was a thing that I was supposed to know, I think, about a certain character, Gabe, that I didn't know. Stemming from Gears 4. So when something happened,
this is a prequel to the first game, right?
Yeah,
I think you talked about that last week, but just to remind people.
Yeah, so there was something that I didn't know about a certain person, and I ended up looking up the lore afterwards. I was oh yeah, that makes sense, because I saw another character that looked familiar in Act 3, and then I kind of pulled the pieces together myself and kind of confirmed everything after the campaign ended. So I don't know, I kind of liked it. The one thing I had about it, though, is they leave something open, and this could just be very well that I don't know the rest of the game's lore or story or whatever, so it could be closed in another game, or it leads to another game or whatever. But there is a part at the end of Act 2 where it looks like the tables are turning, more the cog are more against you than maybe the locusts are at points, but And almost to the point where I thought, oh man, I might have cog enemies or another enemy type almost, challenging me here, and it might totally change the game. It's a good transition to go from this act to a new act, but it never happened, and then that part of it is never addressed again the rest of the game. So it's kind of left open-ended, but like I said, that could be just once again me not knowing certain events because I'm a few games behind. But yeah, besides that little gameplay tease and just pivotal things being stuck in cinematics that aren't in game, that's a little frustrating. But overall, it's not a bad play. I definitely would not have bought this for. I would be more disappointed if I bought it at $60, I think. But the fact that this is available on Game Pass Ultimate for $15 this month, of course, but of course having access to everything else in that library, I think it's a playthrough until you get tired of it, or if you really like Gears. After you beat the mission, it sets up for this thing called Veteran Mode. So it's the same save file, and it puts you through more side missions and stuff. But the goal is to get through these missions and do these veteran missions to up your veteran level. And as you increase your veteran level, the missions get harder. and you get better gear out of it. So I think it's like a way to grind out legendary gear for possible achievements, or just to have like this OP squad if you really want to keep going at it. But I don't see the value besides achievements unless you really, really like this game and just want to keep playing it. But yeah, no, the game does offer Iron Man mode, and for those that are unfamiliar with that, that is where you can't go back on your save. What happens, and you're going to have to live with that decision. So if someone in your crew dies, they're dead, except for your heroes. Your heroes must live, so it would be a game over at that point. But yeah, no, you can go back and play through that. You can always go back through a higher difficulty, but I don't see me revisiting that stuff at all.
I guess in the end, ultimately, like, do you like it? Did you like the game?
Yeah, I liked it. It's just one. I thought it was going to be longer, but this is a good thing. Like, it did not go longer, because I don't think I could have. I really think that I would have fallen off the next act if it was the same formula and the same repetitiveness. But no, I liked it. It's just I would not recommend a $60 buy on this. I think it's one of those solid, like, it's a good.
Thank God it's on Game Pass.
Yeah, it's that, and it's like a good, like, 3.5 out of 5. I mean, they do some unique things. I like the way they encourage aggression instead of like staying back. They a lot of powers play into that, but yeah, no, I just like it just got way too repetitive for me at the end, and there was a point where like I was just kind of slowly milking it, like doing one mission at a time. But then like when I was really into it, like I wanted to do 4 or 5 missions, but when I started to do that, that's when I started seeing like really how repetitive it was, and then I fell back into doing like a chapter or something a night, or maybe not even a whole chapter if I had to do 3 out of 4 side missions. So, do
you feel like the challenge like remained throughout? Like
yes and no. I think
like tactical approach too.
Yes and no. I think if I would have went up to the next level, it would have been challenging throughout. Once you kind of get some perks on some people, they become a little OP, and especially like if you get like the dude with the bow or a boomer that has the boom shot, and if you can like pivot your entire team to target that guy and get that weapon, you can clear out like a wave of opponents if you get that weapon and use it like correctly. I don't know how the harder difficulties deal with it. I don't know. They have smarter AI. I feel like the AI at times, like I think I said this last week, I feel like there was opportunities where they could have just obliterated me, but they fell back instead of being aggressive, which is counterintuitive to this game, because I feel like the more aggressive you are, the more benefits you get out of it. So I think a higher difficulty with a better AI goes a long way, and then also like damage scaling might go into the harder difficulties, and that might play into it, because there's times where like on a normal difficulty it takes like multiple gunshots from your entire team to take down one dude just because of health. That's not a bad thing. It's just there's this queen chess piece on the board, and you have to worry about the queen instead of the pawns at times. It's one of those times like you're going to get hit, but what's the least hard way to get hit in this scenario?
Yeah, what's the better hit to take?
Yeah, so like I said, overall, not bad. I would maybe, if you're familiar with these types of games, maybe think about not going to intermediate, go into hardcore, and then just kind of learning things as they go, because they are pretty good at ramping up the types of enemies into it. And by the time you get comfortable with one, that's when they kind of introduce the next one. So, like I said, it's not bad at all. It's just it ended on a little bit of a sour note, but I'm happy it was the length that it ended up being, and I do like it. It's just it's not going to be your best tactical, turn-based strategy game that's available to you.
I think my final question, the difficulty, is it fluid at all? Like, I remember in 5, I thought they did a good job of letting you on the fly kind of bounce between difficulties. I remember like we would load in to do co-op, and we could each be playing on separate difficulties, and we could change that kind of whenever.
I didn't really. I just being honest, I didn't really look into that. By the time I realized it was getting a little too easy, I was just like, it is what it is. It's just, I played it on what they thought was the regular difficulty. I'm playing through it. Whatever. It is what it is, and at this point, I'm playing it just to kind of talk about it on the podcast and just to wrap it up. But But yeah, I don't know. I don't. But this is the interesting part, and this is kind of alluding into maybe the very end of the show. What we talk about, what we're playing next. I actually launched Gears 4.
Oh wow.
But what was interesting, and maybe what I didn't really notice, maybe the game didn't say it, but on Gears 4, when you're picking your difficulty, their regular difficulty is intended for new Gears fans. Their hardcore is what they deem the way they designed it to be played. So I wonder if that's the same for this as well. Because like I said, I played it on intermediate. So I don't know. If you have Game Pass, it's worth a try. There's no harm in it. But if you don't have Game Pass, you're not interested in it, I would not sink $60 into this.
It's funny we talk about difficulty. I found, I've been thinking a lot about difficulty in games this week because I bought, and I'm almost at the end of Kid Icarus Uprising, and it's got that Smash slider. Did you do any of the classic mode stuff in Smash Brothers Ultimate specifically?
No, not really. The only stuff I really did was a little bit online play, and
the World of Light.
Yeah, the World of Light. That we're talking about games I went on too long.
If you jump into classic mode in Smash, it has a difficulty slider between like 1.0 and 9.0. I might be wrong about that, but I think
that's been around since earlier Smashes too. So yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And those you can only really get to the hardest difficulties if you clear the medium or the high end of the mediums. And the same thing goes here for Kid Icarus Uprising. It's also a Sakurai directed game, and he actually wrote this whole game too, which I didn't realize. Like he wrote all the scenarios and the plot of everything. The difficulty in this is really, I love it, and like it's funny. Like I was a few chapters in, like really early, and I was kind of like, man, every video game should do this. And then I started thinking about it, and it's like, well, stuff like Bloodborne, stuff like Sekiro, not doing that also works. So maybe not every game needs a difficulty slider, but I love the way they did this, where it's not. I think what I want, if you're gonna just make a game like a Bloodborne, like a whatever, great, do it. I think if you're gonna have difficulty, that kind of archaic, this is what we intend you to play, this is what we think, like that kind of thing. I think that the difficulty slider that Sakurai has in place here works so much better for that, because you have this numerical scale that goes back and forth, and as you enter a level, you're kind of just wagering, am I going to get more out of this? Like more reward? Like you don't feel bad for going to a lower difficulty. You just kind of know, oh, I'm going to get less rewards out of this to use for healing or for what, like different items and shit like that. But you never feel like, I feel like there's other options where it's like novice, beginner, like all of that stuff is so like gatekeeping and it just makes you feel like I'm not good enough or I'm better than, like it goes both ways. I think this, you might know that you're playing at a 3 when the scale goes all the way up to 9, but you're like, oh, whatever, I'm playing at a 3. And if you do over wager, where I've done that, where I've been like, all right, that level was way too easy, I didn't die once, whatever, so I over bet, you get your ass kicked, and it just immediately drops you down to where it thinks, the next drop down should be. You can lower it still further, or you can go all the way back to the main menu, but I really liked that part, because it's not, it gets you to like the nearest checkpoint without that harsh of a punishment. Obviously, if you can clear it without dying, you're going to get a greater reward, and if you can clear it at a higher difficulty, you're going to get a greater reward. But the game progression doesn't slow down because you got fucked up, right? Like it doesn't completely eject you from a thing or set you back in a way that I think other games do with difficulty. And I feel like the pacing of this game is never interrupted because you fucked up and it was too hard, which I appreciated. Because some games, like a Bloodborne, you need that kind of you fucked up and this is your fault so that you know to get better. And I think that difficulty generally does teach you to get better at the game. But if you're gonna let people adjust the difficulty, I think this is the way to do it.
Yeah.
Other than that,
when you're talking about difficulty, like to get through Mortal Kombat 11, like I played that campaign on super easy because I'm bad at fighting games. I didn't feel like going through the frustration that I went through with MK9, where I just died time and time again to Shao Kahn, because that was not fun. That wasn't even like a good challenge. It was just the most incredibly frustrating thing in the world. So like it's a fine line there, but I don't know. Joe, I do have to congratulate you, by the way. You are the recipient, I think, of my longest text I have ever sent to someone, period, in my lifetime. Earlier in the week when I was airing my grievances on Gears Tactics.
Oh, I know. I was actually shocked when, like, I saw it come through. Like, I had to do a double take, and I was like, who's texting me? I gotta see it. Yeah, that is... I'm scrolling back to it. Like, that is... It's a hefty one. Yeah,
I mean, I was like, dude, once again, like, looking... Like, these notes... It's like a time capsule almost, the difference in opinion from how this all started earlier week and the fact that I just beat the game and I didn't realize that was happening, like how my thoughts changed. But yeah, and the peak of all that, I was like, dude, this game, and you're like, I don't care, just tell me, and I let it rip.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you fucking got it out. But it's funny because, I mean, you pointed out how side mission stuff was getting bad and then, but then all gone.
Yeah. I mean, it's still bad, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to get.
Knowing that it's, Kid Icarus Uprising, I really like the game, and I always heard, you know how there's those things about certain games that just get echoed by everyone who plays them, and you don't really know until you play it, and then you're like, okay, I see what people are saying. The controls of the game are... I physically have to stop playing after a few chapters because of how like uncomfortable it becomes. So it's 3DS. You use the circle pad to move Pit's position on the screen. You pull the L button to shoot, and then you have to use the stylus to aim using the bottom screen. So you kind of drag the stylus, and you're dragging on the bottom screen, but on the top screen, the reticle's showing up. It works really well, generally, right? Like it does. Before the pain sets in, it does feel like a comfortable way to play the game. But there's a point where you're holding it and you get so into the game. And I think that's one of the things about the game that I do like a lot is I've been completely immersed in it. Every time I play it, I can't pay attention to anything else. So much so that it's the first time in a while. It wasn't until like maybe halfway through the game that I actually turned the 3D on, because I really haven't played a lot of those games on 3DS with the 3D on. But this is one where I found myself like kind of wanting it, just because of how I think well the game, how well of a job the game does at pulling you into it anyway. But then adding that literal extra layer of turning on the third dimension popping out at you, I think that also helps. But you feel yourself getting into it really quickly, and I think that's to its detriment because you end up, at least I have the smaller new Nintendo 3DS. I'm curious how it would play on one of the XLs if they're a little bit more comfortable long term. But I mean, the left bottom corner is digging into your palm. And at times, depending on how you're holding it, the right bottom is digging into your right palm as well. And it's that part, just kind of like those edges, just kind of fucking, after a while, just that pressure pushing into you. It's not much, but it's enough to be like, ugh. And you're also like crab clawing to kind of hold the thing together and hold the stylus up, and it's a little much, but it's still fun to play, which is kind of cool. It's this kind of on rails shooter per level. Every level has a 5-minute flying session and then an on ground session, and that on ground session is going to vary depending on boss battles, difficulty, etc. But the flying session is always that, all of them, sorry, I should say, is always that control scheme. It's always move, shoot, and stylus to aim. But kind of Pit's movement and his move set changes depending on whether or not he's flying or on the ground. I think the easy thing to point out in this game that stands out is just the game's writing. The localization team at Nintendo of America had a fucking fun time localizing this game. Like, there's a lot of just banter for the characters back and forth. And it really kind of makes me appreciate Pit, Palutena, and Dark Pit in Smash Brothers. You know, when they were all announced or integrated, like, Pit was first there in Smash Brawl before he had a new game. There was like talks of one maybe happening or something, but it never quite did. And it was cool to see him come back in Brawl. And then Palutena got added and Dark Pit got added, and it was kind of like, okay, sure. You know, I didn't really... Cool. They had Dark Pit not so much, but Palutena had a cool moveset that was varied enough that made it
Although,
interesting.
looking back, we should have just been happy it's not a Fire Emblem character, so...
Yeah, but they kind of seemed like Fire Emblem characters to an extent. It's just like, fantasy, green hair, okay. They do have unique characters in this game, and you can really see it come to life in the writing. The whole story, it's not nested in Greek mythology, but it does obviously borrow from and utilize Greek mythology in a lot of ways, but it's very meta and fourth wall breaking left and right. Like Pit very much knows he's in a game, but he's also, taking it seriously. And Palutena is the goddess overseeing Pit and helping him to fight evil. And that evil is changing throughout the game to the point where maybe who you thought was good in the beginning is not so good. Things like that, right?
Whoa.
But I think it's cool how it's changed. It's cool how the chapters have gone where you feel like the game might be pinning you towards a natural conclusion and then just completely upends that and says, actually, what about this? What about something completely foreign or alien or weird that you didn't expect or see coming? I think that's been cool. I'm going to try and find a new adjective other than cool to describe this game moving forward. But there's, again, it's the writing of it and the way the voice acting is delivered. It feels Adventure Timey in a way. Not just because one of the voice actresses is from Adventure Time, but also just because of the way that they kind of work together in that way. And I like the little things. There's a lot of callbacks to the Kid Icarus past and mythos. There's little moments. There was one that I wrote down because it was just I'm trying not to say cool. It was a neat moment that I don't know. It was fucking cool. All right. It was cool. But Pit's flying through, and it's the first time you get to see Reapers in the game. Reapers are not the weapon from Perfect Dark.
No, not even that. I'm not even talking about that.
I know. But Reapers were in the original Kid Icarus. If you've played Kid Icarus, the music's iconic, the image of them is iconic, and the fact that once they see you, they send little tiny Reaper versions of them, little tiny version Reapers after you also. So they do that in 3D here as well, and it's obviously different than what the 8-bit version was. But as Palutena says, be careful for Reapers. If they might not see you, but if they do, they'll send blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of like a back and forth. And then Pit goes, oh, you mean these guys? And then like on the whole time you're playing, the action's up top and at the bottom, it's got still images of the characters who are talking, just kind of like popping up and fading in and out as their reactions change. And Pit's like, oh, you mean these guys? And it shows the big 8-bit sprite of the Reaper from the original game. And there's little moments like that where they call back to the original game in a fun way that very much pays homage to it. But I don't know. It's just a really solid, like, top to bottom game. I think if you're looking for something on 3DS to still play, I think this is a good one. One of my favorite moments, close out on Kid Icarus. There's a guy running around. I don't know I forget what he's called.
Chadley?
Some villain. Huh?
I said Chadley.
No. We'll keep Chadley dead. I guess he didn't die. But he's dead to me. I don't trust him. More on that on the Final Fantasy VII spoiler cast. I don't know what this guy's called. I should look him up. But he turns you into tempura. And you just hop around as like a fried fucking shrimp for a couple minutes until you turn back into your original form. In the old games, there's the eggplant wizard who turns Pit into eggplant, and he's here as well. It's kind of like a common villain. But there's also a guy, maybe this is in the original, and I never got that far in the original Kid Icarus because I only played it not that much. But it was just funny, like, you literally turn into a bouncing fried piece of shrimp bouncing through the stage, and I don't know, but there's different vehicles you get in the game. There's a fuck ton of weapons. Like, now there's all these items in Smash, and I'm like, oh, that's where it came from. They all came from Kid Icarus.
I just assumed they all come from Fire Emblem.
I always thought a lot of the ones that are in Kid Icarus actually came from Star Fox, but now I'm finding they're from Kid Icarus Uprising specifically. And funnily enough, this was maybe almost gonna sort of be a Star Fox game prior to Kid Icarus. Yeah, really, really good game. Funny too. Like, there's been funny moments all throughout. It's really well done. Did you hop in anything else outside of?
No, not really.
Oh, well, I did wrap up the Wind Waker since we last talked. The final dungeon is this really cool boss rush that limits the tools you have back to what you had when you fought those bosses originally. And it had been so long since I started the Wind Waker that the first boss that I fought, I'm like approaching it. I'm like, all right, I only have the grappling hook and I have no idea how to fight this guy. Apparently it's the first boss you ever fight in the game, but it's been probably 6 years that I didn't even remember fighting it. So you kind of do that, and as you defeat them, they turn to mist and you get pushed back to the main area of the dungeon. You do that for the main 4 bosses, and then you get to enter the final room, and you just see this like pure menace of Ganondorf, and I kind of missed Ganondorf. I think with the most recent game being the most recent 2 Zelda games that I've played all the way through are Breath of the Wild and Zelda 2, both of which you don't really see the proper Ganon or Ganondorf. And in this one, like, just kind of seeing him standing over, like, Zelda's sleeping and he's there to claim the, her third of the Triforce, and obviously Link's third, so he can ask Shinra for
be
Goku
a Triforce hero. Oh,
yeah, that too. But I just said Shinra. What the fuck am I trying to say? Who's the dragon from Dragon Ball?
Oh, fuck.
I know.
Ah, god damn it.
I said Shinra thinking of stupid fucking
Chadley?
No, thinking of just Final Fantasy VII. Oh, it's gonna drive me nuts.
Shenron.
Shenron?
That's one of them. I think there's a couple of them, depending on what set of Dragon Balls you get.
That was the one I was thinking of.
All right.
Yeah, Shenron. Shenron?
Shenron.
Shenron Hubbard or just Shenron?
I think it's just Shenron.
All right. Anyway. No, so Ganondorf just standing there, like, again, like he's menacing, and I forgot how menacing he could be, because I feel like a lot of my Ganondorf stuff has been just Smash for the last however long. And he hasn't had a proper update to his visual look in marketing or in anything since Twilight Princess. So that's 14 years ago at this point. And he's just, again, you forget that he's like the fucking bad guy. So seeing him standing there, it was kind of like, oh shit, like this, it felt good. Like it felt that like the good I'm Link fighting evil kind of thing. And you get 2 cool boss fights at the end. You get a really cool like Ganon style boss fight where he's just the big, he doesn't go full pig like in some of the other Zelda stuff, but you get to fight him in a couple different forms, and it's got some of the, if you've played Ocarina, if you've played those, like, it has those boss fight moments for sure. And then you get, as you've spent all of Wind Waker learning Link's sword skills and upping his sword play throughout it, you get a cool sword fight at the end where you get to team up with Zelda to take down Ganondorf. And the fucking final, it was spoiled for me years ago just because people talking about, like, hey, what was one of the most badass moments in games? And I just knew it from that. So I kind of knew whatever, but even still, like, seeing it happen was really fucking cool. And just the lasting shot that sits there. I didn't have to, but I did kind of like pull the save trigger at the end. I didn't realize. I thought it was gonna. It warned you it was gonna, and I was like, well, maybe it won't. But it just overwrites your save and sets you back at the beginning. So I probably won't go back to it unless I wanted to play. It puts you on like a second quest mode, which is something I think more Zelda games need, or all Zelda games should have, like harkening back to the beginning one where you beat it and now everything's kind of harder and in random spots different than it was before. But yeah, there's stuff about that game that was definitely tedious and definitely makes me appreciate the first game and the most recent game that much greater. but because this is definitely Skyward Sword was the one where I just fell off of it, and I don't know why. Something about Zelda recently has just infected me in a way. Like, I don't know if I'm itching for Breath of the Wild 2 or what. I keep having to apologize for Mark because I keep sending him lore videos every day at lunch. I make a sandwich and I pop open YouTube and I'm just like, let's get into some fucking lore, dude. And I send him a bunch of shit. But it's
start sending you Gears lore videos.
Fucking let's get wet, dude. Like, I am here for lore. But something about, I don't know, I'm just falling into it a whole lot. And I read a lot this week about game design and game design in Zelda specific. I mean, I've been reading about game design, but independent of that, some Zelda stuff came up, obviously, because I'm like, crossing those rivers. And the Zelda stuff, like pointing out how you forget like how good Breath of the Wild is, generally speaking, but also like as a complete contrast to what had come before it, because Skyward Sword, I think I can attribute this to Tevis Thompson's 2012 article, Saving Zelda. But I've read a bunch of things this week, so if it's not that, and I fucked up, I'm sorry, but I think it's that. But you can read that on his blog. If you just type Saving Zelda, you'll find it. But he talks about how Skyward Sword became an amusement park. And I think I'm reading Derek Yu's Spelunky book right now too, so I think it's in there as well. Maybe it's that. Yeah, either way, they both talk about it, like the idea of the amusement park where you're doing these things and they're flashy and they're cool and they're exciting and they're thrilling, but they're guided experiences, right? Like there's no risk involved because the designers know what the outcome is. They put it there so that you do it and you experience the thrill, but there's no sense of discovery or whatever. Maybe a little bit, right? Like you get those little highs of it because it might be something new you haven't done before, but someone has completely curated what that experience is going to be like from beginning to end. And there's no sense of discovery, where the original Zelda or Breath of the Wild had those moments of, going back to Miyamoto wandering the countryside of Kyoto, finding a random cave or finding stuff in the forest. It's totally that thing where you get to wander and like, what is this? And I think there's something, I've been looking a lot at Breath of the Wild, and I think I'm going to jump back into that world a little bit, but just those moments of like emergent storytelling throughout the world there, I think are really strong, where you just see things happening in Hyrule that they don't give a fuck if Link is there or not, or if the player sees them. They're there and they're always going to be there, and it's, you happen upon it, so it feels organic to you. You're not the one causing it, and you're not the one, it's not there just so that you can see it. It's there because it's there, and it just builds this big world. And I think Wind Waker has a lot of that. And I like Wind Waker for that, and I appreciate Wind Waker for that. But there was still some stuff where it was like, I gotta do fucking what? But it's still, and I think Wind Waker, again, like being as dark as it is, contrasting its visual style is really cool, especially the final bit. I won't spoil, but and then because the Wii U is, the console of consoles, I mentioned last week I bought Sin and Punishment on Virtual Console through N64, or through Virtual Console for N64, and I played and beat that game this week. You could probably spend, under 2 hours, you can knock out this game. And if you have a way to play it, if you have an OG N64 and you can import the cart, I think actually it's probably expensive, but it's also probably tough. I think N64 is region locked. But hey, man, get yourself a Japanese N64, import some carts. It might not be region. I don't fucking know. If you have a Wii U, this is the way to do it, honestly. Grab it on there. It's $11.99, and I think worth it. This is developed by Treasure, published by Nintendo, was not released outside of Japan until Virtual Console on Wii. And obviously, the Wii's Virtual Console shop stuff all shut down about 2 years ago. But you can still buy it on Wii U, and it's really, really, really good. It's an on-rail shooter. So it's kind of weird that I jumped into that and Kid Icarus all at once, but it's got a deep sci-fi plot that really rivals Evangelion. Like, it's really evocative of all of that. You can tell the folks at Treasure were really into Evangelion when they made this game. The plot is basically the future is the future, and there's way too many people. So science has developed ways to feed people and something, but then biomutants take over and you're fighting the biomutants, that kind of thing. You play as a, not too far off from Avalanche-esque little group, kind of fighting these monster things. For me, what stands out about this game, it's the direction and the music of the game. The music just, it's really good, like really, really good jazzy, like arcadey. It just fits the world and what they've built so well. But the direction of every shot and every moment, like I think all good on-rail shooters have really good direction, right? Like the way the camera follows the character and moves around is always good, because it can be boring if you're just going from the bottom of the screen to the top of the screen always. And I think this does a good job of having the character move side to side, having the character move toward or away from the camera, up, down, all those things. But I think even further from that, as they're telling the story, I think there's really impressive use of camera angles and things that make it feel like you are watching an anime that's just come to life in the form of polygons. I kept looking at it just historically, thinking like, this is on the fucking Nintendo 64. You know what I mean? Like, that was the part that stood out to me the most. If you can, play it. If you can't, watch someone play it on YouTube. I think it's short. I mean, I fucked around with it and just like dying and trying to figure out what I was doing and learning my way through the game. It took me, my in-game clock was an hour and 14-ish minutes. I bet if you looked at the play counter on the Wii U, it's probably maybe closer to 3 hours I spent with it, just from trial and error and fucking around. 2-3 hours, something like that. I know this is going to make you upset, but I do want to commend the Wii U just for allowing intelligent button remapping that makes sense. The original... Huh?
Button remapping.
Yeah, the N64 controls for this game, the left or the analog stick would aim, the C buttons would move your character, the R and L buttons jumped, which you're kind of not going to be grabbing L, but your R button would be your jump, and then Z was your shoot, which the Z shooting and the aiming with the left stick makes sense. And for this game, I think if you're holding an N64 controller, the C buttons as movement probably work just fine. And then having R for jump is perfect because of where you're kind of holding that controller. It wouldn't make any sense to do it otherwise. Especially as dependent on the game is, as it's not, when I say it's on rails, like it's just kind of like fixed camera perspective, but you do have full motion around the area of the screen or whatever platforms you're standing on. So yeah, mapping jumping to A would have been weird when you're also moving the character with your thumb that way. It would have been strange. So this, I was able to remap it. So left analog stick was move, right analog stick was aim, and I left the front triggers as jump and the back triggers as shoot, and it worked well.
Yeah, a little button remapping. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's good.
And I've got the sequel. Mark gave me a copy of the sequel that I forgot I had. I was going to buy it it's $20. You can buy the Wii version on Wii U's Virtual Console also. But I saved myself $20 because I was texting Mark about it, and he was like, yeah, I think you have the sequel too. And I was like, what the fuck? And sure enough, I did. I do. Nice. So I almost put it in right after I beat the original, but I think I'll wait. Finish up Kid Icarus first.
I was trying to look up the region lock thing. It says that reviewers brought it in or imported it in for a review, so I'm going to assume that it wasn't region locked. And they don't say anything about region locked until they get to Virtual Console release dates on the Wikipedia page. So
okay, yeah, I think because I remember the game like being reviewed back in the early 2000s by like IGN and GameSpot.
Jeff Gerstmann had a review of it.
Oh, did he? Yeah. Right, so that, like, I know the game had been reviewed here. I don't know if they had, like, debug consoles when they were reviewed, because back then they would give outlets and publications debug stuff or, multi-region stuff. So I don't know. Either way, if you're into the import scene, you probably already know how to do all that and would do that. If not, $12 on eShop on Wii U. Highly worth it. It's been making me like look at other things. I keep looking at Virtual Console and Wii U like, all right, what else did I miss? Because I know there's a lot of stuff that I missed. And I'm thinking like part of me post Wind Waker wanted to jump into the DS Zelda games, but they seem like they go way too far down that amusement park rabbit hole. And I feel like I need to kind of break free a little. Like I need that sense of it. Like Wind Waker was unshackled but shackled, you know? I never finished Skyward Sword because it was too much of a kind of want to go back to Twilight Princess. I don't know what the fuck. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you there.
Yeah. Well, I could tell you, we're going to roll ourselves into a break. And when we come back, we've got a healthy amount of news to talk about this week.
Healthy. All right.
Healthy. We'll
Nice
be right
and
back.
green?
Huh?
Nice and green?
Nice and green. In the green. After this. Diablo 2 remaster probably still happening, according to some website. This is Actu Gaming? Actu Gaming?
Yeah, I think is it Swedish? Finnish?
Looks like French to me,
French,
but I
whatever.
might be real dumb.
I don't know. It's foreign, but yeah, it looks like Diablo 2 is still on pace to come out this year despite not being announced yet, right?
Right.
And
it's
then
basically confirmed by Jason Schreier last year, so...
Then this guy, he has a pass of predicting Blizzard things correctly, or this French news outlet.
Yeah.
So yeah, French. They have a correction. They correctly predicted Overwatch 2, Diablo 4, and WoW Shadowlands. So there's some it's a little bit of rapport there. So,
and it looks like, and this is in French, so forgive me, but this looks like they're attributing the remaster to Vicarious Visions.
got a lot of work ahead of them.
They do. But if that's the case, we might. Let me see here. I'm running this through Bing Translator for you, Matt. Just in case. Yeah, I don't. So Diablo 2. Did you ever play much of that? Any of it?
Played a little bit of it over someone's house. Usually dungeon crawlers aren't necessarily my thing. I played it very early as well, like before you get good loot. So I don't know. I like the premise of Diablo 2, or like the Diablo franchise, but usually dungeon crawlers not my cup of tea.
I didn't play Diablo until 3, and I liked what I played, but seeing people wanting a darker Diablo again, we see that in 4's announcement, which 4 looked really fucking cool. And I know that 2 is the one, right? Like 3's been good, and I think 3's probably sold the highest in the franchise, considering how many platforms it's come to and how many different, the gaming audience is much larger today than it was when Diablo 2 launched. But I feel like Diablo 2 still sells just as it is. How do you think that the stuff from last year will affect Diablo 2?
I don't know. I think people have kind of forgotten in a way. I don't see many people talking about it. If anything, I think the thing that's going to hurt it the most is how underwhelming the reforging of Warcraft 3 was. I think that's the part that people aren't going to forget so easily at the moment. I think luckily for Blizzard, coronavirus kind of happened with them in China, so everyone kind of forgot about that piece of it now. So I don't know, but I think Warcraft 3 hurts it more than what happened last year.
Do you think that stuff gets brought back up? I mean, is that something that can hit the news cycle again? I don't know.
It depends how and where it's all brought up. It depends on the state of the world. It's just there's not much else to talk about besides somehow murder hornets made the news, despite that not even being a real issue, according to actual like professionals in that field. So like it just depends how long Corona and COVID-19 keep the news cycle. But yeah, like it's just hard to make headline news or even be like mentioned in that right now. It's very tough.
Vicarious Visions also in the news this week behind the upcoming, officially announced Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remaster. Talked about it last week after one Jason Dill continued. I mean, he was the latest in a string of people saying that this was being worked on. And this was so... I think one cool thing about this, there's a lot cool about this, but this is what started Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest string of announcements. The first thing was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. Announced on Tuesday. This will be out on September 4th for PlayStation 4, PC, and Xbox One. I think it's $39.99. Gets you the Deluxe Edition. I know $99.99 gets you... I'm sorry. $39.99 is the game. The Deluxe Edition is $49.99. The Collector's Edition is a physical version of that for $99.99 that includes all the game's digital deluxe content and a birdhouse deck from the Birdhouse Skate Company. A real ass hold it in your hands fucking skateboard. Yeah, and I mean, I said last week, all you got to do is make sure that it plays good and it's got Police Truck in it. And damn if they didn't make Police Truck the fucking song they put in the trailer for it. But yeah, the roster's there. Tony Hawk, Bucky Lasek, Steve Caballero, Jeff Rowley, Andrew Reynolds, Alyssa Steamer, Chad Muska, Eric Causton, Rodney Mullen, Rune Glifberg, Kareem Campbell, Jamie Thomas, and Bob Burnquist. I mean, that's the set
cast
right there.
That's the cast.
So after the trailer, which the trailer, I mean, there's something a little bit too like sunny about it. I don't know if that makes sense. Like it looks like the sun needs to be not as orange. Everything about this is orange, but generally I like the art direction.
I think lighting's come a long way as well, in the years, so I think that's part of it. Yeah. I do like that the cast kind of sticks to their original thing. Like I always remember Chad Muska being the idiot that wore the backpack all the time, and he still has that backpack on. So like,
yeah,
it seems like they're being faithful. A lot of my concern was, will the game actually work? And the fact that Vicarious Visions is doing it gives that concern kind of goes by the wayside almost for me now.
Yeah, because we had those Robomoto games, the HD and then 5, which just didn't feel like Tony Hawk games. So this, I mean, when the game goes up, or the game is up for pre-order now, but if you pre-order before release, you get access to the warehouse demo whenever they announce or release that. That'll be the day that I just buy it.
Probably, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're bringing back a lot. So every stage from Tony Hawk's 1 and 2, including the bonus stages, are all going to be there. There's really only a handful of songs that aren't going to be in the final cut of the soundtrack, but all the stuff that should be there is there. And looking at the ones that didn't make the cut, because the full soundtrack's out there now too, the few that aren't on there are the ones that I've had trouble adding to my own like Apple Music playlists. So I just don't think they're out for the rights. Probably are too hard to obtain these days.
Yeah,
I didn't look into like the details of any of those artists to see why or what. And I think really only one of them that wasn't in the final, that's not going to be in this, is one where I'm like, that's, you know what I mean? Like, I think, but I've honestly, the playlist that I do have put together for all 3 of the original games, whenever I've played one, just listen to those playlists that I have. Anytime I've done that, I never feel like, I'm missing that one song. And I've played those while I play Session. Mm-hmm. And doing that, I'm always just like, it doesn't stand out. I think this is really good. Because I think the problem that the HD 2012 versions had is they didn't get all the songs. They got a good chunk, but then they also tried to supplement it by adding in other songs that they felt fit the era of it, and it just detracted from it overall. Create a Skater's back, Create a Park, all of that's there. They talked, Jeff Keighley after the announcement talked to Jen O'Neill, studio head at Vicarious Visions, and some guy named Tony Hawk, and yeah, she was back. She worked on 3 of the other games. She talked about how Vicarious Visions worked on a lot of the Nintendo handheld ports of the games. Particularly Tony Hawk 2 on GBA is really fucking good. You wouldn't expect it to be. It's a total departure from what the game is on main consoles, but for it being on a Game Boy Advance, like it plays really well, and it's a cool look at a skateboarding game in that small Game Boy format. I'm fucking stoked. Yeah. Like this was the one. This and whatever fucking Batman game is coming. Like those are the things I've been waiting for. So check this off the list.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I don't like. I want to play it. I don't see how long I stay in this game, but I think I still buy it. I think I'm going to get a PC, honestly.
Yeah. This, I mean, for me, I still play the originals all the time. Not all, you know what I mean? I'm not like sitting down weekly, but I will sit down and just play through. Like the other day when this happened, I popped in the first one. And I played up through New York, which is, I don't know, halfway through the game, a little bit more than halfway. Just because it's just good.
I think I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I think like the best thing that they've done is, it's 1 and 2, but they've also taken into account like what brain triggers happen when you play some of the later Tony Hawk games and when you come back to the old ones. So like,
Tony Hawk said that he's talked to so many people through the years who were like, oh yeah, I loved doing reverts in 2, or he even thought that, I think he said, but they weren't in 2, they were added in 3, but they've brought that in, which they in the HD 2012 one, it wasn't until they did the 3 DLC and they added a handful of levels from 3 back into that.
Yeah, so
that
weird.
Then they added reverts, but it was only for those levels or something like that, and they added a Metallica song that shouldn't have been there, and I don't know.
I know reverts are a big part of how I play because I usually live on the half pipe when I play these games. I don't usually do a good line. So nice having reverts.
That makes so much sense. Like before you even said that, I knew exactly how you play these games. Like there's the half pipe dudes and there's the fucking I knew it. Not that I ever consciously thought about it, like just said that just fits you so well.
All right. I don't know. I have no comment on that. All right.
I don't know how to articulate it without sounding offensive, so I'm just going to not.
I got nothing. I don't know. I don't even know what that means.
It just makes sense. I don't know. Like there's the Bucky Lassicks and there's the fucking Jeff Rowleys. I don't know.
Fair enough.
I get it. It's not a. I don't mean for it to sound offensive. I don't.
No, it's not
a
dig. I don't even know what that means.
No, I don't mean for it to sound like a dig. I don't want to keep treading this water and make it seem like it's an attack. Now I feel like I'm making it sound like it's an attack. I just mean there's literally 2 types of skaters. Like you kind of do one or the other, and it's but people fit into those niches very well, and I feel like it makes sense. Like Tony Hawk was very much on the pipe. He's not going to be skating the streets of New York, where Eric Costin. Anyhow, the day after, Mr. Keighley had a second announcement, in which I think even you, and you're pretty good at this. You're pretty good at avoiding this shit, but I think you got sucked into a little bit of the false hype there. We saw over Jeff Keighley's shoulder during the Tony Hawk announcement the Batarang from the Arkham Asylum Collector's Edition, and I think we were walking into this Wednesday thing, 1, thinking there was going to be a couple of games announced, 2 thinking that some Batman thing was going to be announced because, honestly, it made sense. The Tony Hawk stuff was practically confirmed a year ago. Excuse me. So the fact that it happened was like, eh. And then WB Montreal has continued to just put these fucking teasers out every 29 years. And then, but what we got was, I think...
And also,
exciting.
The end of the Tony Hawk thing, he had that splash thing that said one of the most important dates of this. Yeah. So I thought it was going to be big AAA.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But it meant it in another way.
Yeah, which
I
still
understand.
fits that billing. But Unreal Engine 5 was announced on Wednesday and shown off live with a tech demo running on PS5 hardware. And then following up, we had an interview with Tim Sweeney of Epic Games and the CTO of Epic Games, and I can't remember the other guy's position, but they showed this world, this cave setting, this kind of underground tomb in a way.
Yeah, I think Tomb Raider, but not licensed.
Yeah, like looked more Egyptian than some of the places Laura's been. But either way,
how
it
about
was
Last
very...
Revelations? I'm pretty sure she's in desert environments there.
Good call. I'm thinking of the... Yeah. But, yeah, Unreal Engine 5. It'll be out next year. It will scale across to every platform. There was something they talked about in that interview where obviously it's going to run on high-end PCs, PS5 and Xbox Series X the best, and do a lot of the crazy stuff that we saw in that demo on those higher end machines. But the whole purpose of this is they learned a lot from Fortnite and getting that to run, to do impressive things visually and technically, but then also to get it to scale to your iPhone or a Switch or whatever. So this will come to all platforms, but the demo they showed off, the thing that they emphasized that I've walked away from this from, and I'm curious to hear kind of where you leave this with, what you left that with. But for me, the thing that I left it thinking about was they talked about how artists and they really emphasized like the visual creation and like that side of things, like the environment creation with Unreal Engine 5. It seemed a lot more about that than it was about what physics can do in this or whatever. It was more about creating a world and having that world be kind of
interactive
to the point where like ray tracing that's been the buzzword right over the last 18 months in computing, graphical computing at least. It's getting expanded now to they talked about how everything's kind of like not procedurally generated in that sense, but if you destroy a wall, light will come through in a way that you don't have to do any extra programming for that. The engine just kind of knows to produce light there because light's supposed to be there. That's the thing to me where I start thinking about how developers can make worlds that much more believable and that much more immersive. And all the thing that they emphasized too was, it was cheap resource wise, right? Like they could put in these crazy detailed things and it didn't have an effect, a negative effect on performance of the engine or of the system or anything, that's the part that's really cool. Again, it's a tech demo, so it's hard to, imagine what it is in practice. And I spent some time, not as much as I wanted to, just kind of looking at Unreal 4 tech demos, Unreal 3 tech demos versus some of the, higher ends of what they can do with that. But what did you walk away from this thinking, feeling?
I think the big thing I take away from it is like the entire geometry, and I might sound very ignorant here. I don't design game worlds, but like everything had triangles. Everything is like part of the actual environment and is not textured map. And I think of games like a scripted sequence in Uncharted where Nathan Drake is running away from every fucking explosion in the world. I think of Control where you tap those control points and then all of a sudden the world around you went from like this red to like this transformed to like what the bureau should have been, the oldest house. So like all those things are very scripted when they happen because of the way texture maps are and the way the world is made in engine. But it sounds like we might not need the scripted event for this. This could all just kind of happen a little bit more naturally, which is exciting. And I think of the possibilities in games like Control, like looking ahead at what Control 2 might be, and seeing how if it runs in Unreal or an engine that can support something like this, then that'd be really, really cool to kind of see how the environment can kind of change all around you. And I think the obvious thing here also is lighting, something they emphasized pretty early on, and that's been like the big shiny example that people use for ray tracing is the lighting and shadows and stuff like that. I'm excited to see what games can keep messing with lighting in this way, in this kind of engine, and the fact that it all renders out in real time, I think that's a unique thing, and also plays well with the triangles and that geometry. So I think you're gonna have a lot more like lively environments almost. So I go back to what I played earlier in the year with Dark Souls, like that map, like that tight-knit map and that world is already like so good, but then you add this next level to it. I think like world design and map design and stuff goes to the next level, and then that could even go into multiplayer as well, which is exciting. Like for we go back to Battlefield 4 and their big thing were the Levolutions, but they were very set specific things, and I know my PlayStation 4 almost like crashed every time a big one happened in that game. So actually, it was on PS3 too, and it felt like the game was going to crash. So, like, I think worlds are going to benefit tremendously from this in the way that they're designed, and maybe not so much texture mapping, but with actual like triangles.
Yeah, I think it gets back to, I mean, like we were talking about with Zelda stuff earlier, like I was mentioning, like that idea of putting the player in a world and seeing what happens. I think that is you'll be able to do more like that in games like Control and more narrative experiences that also have this secondary narrative happening. Like, like just at some point, everything is Zelda. We get there,
Yeah, like there's a Hammer of Dawn sequence in Gears Tactics, and like it's all in a cutscene. Like, what if like shit's blowing up in real time as you play, and it's not this big giant scripted sequence? Like, it still can be scripted, but it doesn't have to feel as scripted almost.
Right,
I don't know. Like, there's some real possibilities I think that could happen here, and it doesn't have to be a very specific event either. I think just like trees falling over in a forest, or it's things like that.
Yeah, those things, and how does it impact the actual story? Does it impact whatever? Or is it just a happenstance that, you can walk away from and have... I mean, you think about something like you're playing a fuck ton of Warzone. Fortnite is obviously still incredibly popular. PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds is still... like they're still the big three. Well, I think Call of Duty's the newer one, right? And, but those the big three, and Apex, I guess the big four, whatever. But the whole battle royale genre has gotten to the point that it has, because while the rule set is there, the map is there, and things happen seasonally that change those things, but the excitement of those games happens because while it all feels the same, every game is different. Something different happens. Oh my God, I can't believe this. Oh my God, I was playing and this happened. And all the stories from anyone, they're so interesting across the board. It's the same thing like when we were with Breath of the Wild, when that came out, and people were just sharing all their crazy stories of like, did you know you could do this? Well, did you know if you magnetize this and you hit that, like all that stuff that's just like, I had no idea that could happen, or you light something on fire, or like all those things, right? Like that stuff starts to happen on a bigger scale with every game. Like that's, I don't know, it changes things. And like you said, the multiplayer stuff, you see that already in little bits with what Epic itself has done with Fortnite and with other games have done, like that just emergent storytelling because of what is happening, what the player's able to do in a game. And I think that just gets bigger with something like Unreal 5.
Yeah, like what if like the next Battlefield, like there's a big, maybe Battlefield because they don't use Frostbite, but like the next like multiplayer game uses Unreal, and it's like a shooter. Like there's so many times where like you're driving and like some geometry you can run over with that truck, and then others it is like running into an impenetrable force, and it doesn't seem like that should be the case for like that kind of tree. But like, what if like like you could drive that truck into a building and you see like the cement chip off of that building, and it might fall, it might not, but like those triangles could have the collision detectors in them, and they know how, like with a good physics engine all involved with it, like they could splinter off, and like these little things like that, I think could become just a huge part of this. Like, playing in a jungle, like before, like if you shoot down trees or an explosion happens next to a tree, the tree usually doesn't move for the most part. Right. But like, what if that tree like burns up now, or like it falls over, and now like your cover is not cover anymore because of that level of detail or level of physics now on a map. I think possibilities are endless here for world design if this turns out the way they were describing it.
I decided I'm going to try to learn Unreal Engine 5, and I'm going to see if I can build the pyramids, full to scale pyramids out of Popeye's cups just by themselves. Nothing but Popeye's cups.
Go for it. Why not?
I think the other thing, we'll close out on Unreal 5, but I think Unreal 4 is something, because Unreal 3, by the end of that generation, you just kind of knew, you could look at a game, just like a screenshot even, and know that it was Unreal 3. It got to that point. And 4 was a welcome change because of how dynamic it was, and different things that people have done with 4 have just been really impressive. But we've also seen an adoption of Unreal Engine 4 by the East, which has been really surprising, because there was always so much pride in not using middleware, not using things like that, and creating its own things. Like the latest Yoshi game was Unreal. Final Fantasy VII was Unreal. There's a lot that was Unreal. So it's cool seeing another big step forward like that in that engine, and I'm curious to see what all game developers do.
Yeah, for sure.
That is it for Jeff Keighley for the time. Actually, he had like a follow-up with that Ghost of Tsushima thing, but I didn't really...
I watched the Ghost of Tsushima thing.
What did you think of that?
That game is not what I thought it was.
Is that bad or good?
I don't know if I want an open world game at the moment.
Yeah, it's I was already on the fence about that game anyway for me, and then when I saw it was open world, I was really turned off.
Yeah, I was expecting like not like super narrative, like on rails heavy, but I was thinking it was more leaning towards that because I guess they got it with Second Son, but I know Sucker Punch got that shiny new mocap studio, and I thought they were going to maybe lean into more storytelling, especially like in this kind of thing. I don't know. I just hope it doesn't fall into those tropes. I know they did more things with immersion with the wind, and that's cool, but there's still like markers on the map. The gameplay looks interesting. I like the idea of Ninja versus Ghost. I think that could be a cool conflict, especially if it impacts the story in a way. I think that's a cool little concept there. Maybe that might even be like the thing I was maybe looking for to differentiate this from Sekiro. So I'm still gonna get it. I don't know. I just hope that I've been saying this now since the beginning. I don't need these big open worlds anymore that feel boring. Rage 2, I think, was the final straw that sucked me out of that. So I don't know. I just hope it's like not too massive. I hope it's like they can be big, and they did say fast travel, but like isn't part of the big open world to travel and see all the random events and stuff like that? Like Red Dead Redemption 2, like the fact that you can fast travel, you miss all those public events that they take the time putting it into. Well, not public events, but like random events. Like I don't know. Like I feel like those two things almost have like a weird identity crisis one another. So I don't know. There's still more yet to see. This comes out in July. It comes out after The Last of Us. It's just I don't know how open worldy this really is, and that kind of concerns me. Because we've seen so many this generation, and if this is going to be the swan song, it needs to be something different.
Well, and you think about it, this game has taken this generation to develop. So I wonder how many of the ideas about what this game is were, created what feels like a decade ago. I mean, it's almost a decade ago, but Second Son, I think, just missed PS4 launch only because it needed more time for polish, not because of anything else. I don't think that like that game wasn't.
Did it come out a year later?
It was like 6 months, not even.
So, like, it's still like launch window though.
Yeah, it was launch window. So, the fact that that happened then, I mean, that means that this game has been in development. They did First Light after that, but First Light was really just retreading what Second Son had already done. Yeah, I just wonder how many, like, it seems funny, like, to think that 7 years ago was so long ago, but it really was in terms of what games can do and the types of games that we gravitate towards. And I think our tolerance for certain things, like you just said, has completely changed. I think stuff like Red Dead, I think stuff like Breath of the Wild has changed that. The Assassin's Creed overhaul with Origins,
yeah.
I think was a big step in the right direction for people who were tired of that. But I think even those are still a little bit. I mean, we celebrated the fact that the Valhalla director said, yeah, it's not going to be as long as the last ones. So, yeah, I honestly, I turned Ghost of Tsushima thing off like partway through, and then I was like, I should just finish it, and I jumped back to it and wrapped up.
No, the combat does have me excited, and I just hope that that stuff does have story beats linked to it. It's not just an upgrade tree.
It seemed like they have the cutscenes that roll out, and they have dialogue. There's an optional Japanese track for this, which is good because when I saw that game with the English voice acting last time around, I was like, this seems odd. That
for all the care you put into it, yeah. But I'll play with the Japanese voice track definitely because I play with subtitles anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's so that's it for Jeff Keighley for right now. But we did learn that another touchstone in the summer is Ubisoft. Doing it's called Ubisoft Forward this July for exclusive game news, reveals, and more. This is, likely replacing its June E3-ish plans. They have confirmed they're going to show off Gods and Monsters, speaking of Breath of the Wild, Rainbow Six Quarantine, and Watch Dogs Legion. I always add a D at the end of that when I say it. I don't know why. And we'll see Assassin's Creed Valhalla. But you think we'll see Beyond Good and Evil 2?
That was going to be my question to you.
There's that, and Skull and Bones are the ones.
I don't even know what Skull and Bones is at this point. Like, do you even release it? Is it next gen? Cross gen. I think for Skull and Bones, I think that they were getting that put together in the wake of Black Flag, of years people looking for that. And then I think Sea of Thieves happened. And Sea of Thieves, I don't know if you know this, but had a very negative reception at launch. And I think it took a lot of work to get Sea of Thieves. And even now, I don't think the Sea of Thieves is like highly revered, but I think that people do like it better than they did. But I wonder if that impacted what they wanted to do with Skull and Bones. Yeah, I don't know what Skull and Bones turns into. I mean, if we don't see it here, I think that means trouble. I think I want to kind of say it's the same for Beyond Good and Evil. If you don't see it here, that's a lot of trouble. I will say it has one of the most memorable E3 moments if it does go away. Bang, bang, motherfuckers. So, I don't know.
But we do live in a world where you can wake up, it's 9 a.m. on a Thursday, and you get a tweet notification that just says, what up, here's a new video game. So maybe Ubisoft will just drop some hot bombs on us in the middle of July, like Nintendo did Thursday when it announced Paper Mario The Origami King coming to Nintendo Switch July 17th. Not unexpected, because we did have that 35th anniversary Mario stuff get leaked about the collection of Mario 3D games and the fact there would be a new Paper Mario game coming in the series. I also think that even prior to any leaks and people, reporting to know, you could kind of predict that a Paper Mario game would have come out this year in a way.
I mean, it almost had to. You were going to see Paper Mario at some point. That was a guarantee. That the franchise is too popular. Also, the fact that we've gotten sequels to some other stuff now at this point. Like, we got a Kirby game, 2, I think, right? If you count the free one kind of free to play.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
A Yoshi game. Like the fact that those franchises got sequels to Switch. I mean, hell, we got a Luigi's Mansion. So
yeah.
I'm not shocked that this is coming. And yeah, I think it was due by the end of this year. And yeah, it looks like it's coming. The shocking thing is, I don't know where she saw it, but like Victoria even approached me about this one. So like, I don't know if Nintendo's marketing just reached, it's doing its job, or she just saw it randomly somewhere. But
I might have retweeted it.
That might have been
not to give myself the credit.
But yeah, I don't know. I think Paper Mario makes sense on Switch. I mean, I think a lot of things make sense on Switch.
Bring back F-Zero, dude.
Well,
I've also been playing F-Zero X on Wii U after buying a Virtual Console, and just Mark was right, dude. Just bring it back.
I really want it. I mean, I predicted this was a prediction, but like that was very wrong. But like, I really want them to just do a full ass like just like racing service game with that.
Dude, it could work so well if they did my Mario Kart 8 dream. But think about like Splatoon. If you took the Splatoon 2 approach to F-Zero,
where you can't play with your friends unless you play ranked.
Yeah, it's exactly what I'm saying, right? No, you get that was good. You get a good solid core game, like a good like I don't know, 16 courses, like a good 4 cups. Well, I guess F-Zero has longer cups kind of, but whatever. You get a good chunk of these maps and stages. I'd love a story mode because of how fucking weird some of the story mode stuff can be, but even if it's just the racing, just make it multiplayer racing. And then you dole out each month a new track, like an exclusive track the same way they do for Splatoon, like a Splatfest style thing. Like fuck.
Cars, like yeah. I just hope like I will want them. I don't know. People might not like this, but like I will want them to have that multiplayer first focus on that F-Zero game if it came to Switch.
No, I would too. Totally. Right? Like, I mean, you can't play Splatoon. Well, there is a whole Splatoon campaign, but like generally, if you're gonna play Splatoon, you're gonna play it online. You know, it's fun when you can play with your friends. But yeah, if they could, I would like that a lot.
Yeah,
dear Nintendo. 12 hours later, Nintendo announced 4 more titles coming to NES and Super Nintendo online Switch online collections. On May 20th, Super Nintendo... Sorry, let me say the name of this platform properly here. Super NES Nintendo Switch Online will receive Operation Logic Bomb, Panel de Pon, and Wild Guns, and NES Nintendo Switch Online is getting Rygar. So you can play those. I think I texted Mark. I want to play some Wild Guns. I've never played it, but it's coming.
Neither have I. I always forget I have this shit. I'm so used to being the dude that's like gung ho about this online not being good, but I forgot I got family for Victoria.
Yeah, dude, jump in and play some fucking The Legend of Zelda. Get lost in the well, there aren't lost woods, but just get wild. And I honestly, there's some good shit on there to play around with. No new games in development for Titanfall. Respawn boss Vince Zampella says that Titanfall is on the back burner. So a game that was kind of teased last year may have been canceled. Yeah, there's a 10th anniversary interview. Wait, sorry. I'm looking at the wrong thing here. Where did this come out of?
I'm sorry, which one are we looking at?
This is the Titanfall. No, yeah, this is the 10th anniversary interview with Respawn and IGN. IGN interviewed Respawn for its 10th anniversary. There we go. Got it out. Asked about the Titanfall franchise, and Vince Zampella said there's nothing currently in development, but it's always there. Last year, he had teased that there'd be more Titanfall coming in 2019. Matt's friend, EA CEO Andrew Wilson, mentioned that a premium Titanfall game that would be a twist on the franchise was coming. So maybe that thing is not in development by Respawn or anything that Zampella is working with. But he says, you see the little bits of stuff coming back through the lore in Apex Legends. At some point, I would personally like to see some kind of resurrection there. We'll see if I can make that happen. I don't know. That's kind of a bummer. I mean, obviously, I don't think Titanfall 2 initially had a chance, but I feel like Titanfall 2 had pretty good legs on it sales-wise following the fact. I don't think I've ever heard Titanfall 2
sale a lot. I remember that.
Yeah, I bought it for like $8, which maybe that didn't help it. But, I think that you can't bring up Titanfall 2 without someone like almost cutting you off and saying like, no, it's a really good game. The campaign's the best. Like, whether it's us or forums, like whenever that game comes up, I see people just constantly praise that campaign because it's really fucking good. But
funny enough, I never even finished the campaign, but I love Titanfall 2.
Well, let me cut you off and tell you, it's really good.
It's, I don't know, it's just this perfect fucking blend of speed and I don't even know how to explain it. It was just like an adrenaline rush every time you dropped into a map. And then I never feel good in a mech. I don't play a lot of mech games, but I feel like every one I've played, I never feel good in one. This was like the one game where I felt like I was halfway competent as a mech, and I enjoyed getting into one. And when I saw one, I would like to get into it. So like I wish they would do a third proper, but I guess we'll have to rely on Apex.
I kind of thought Apex was like the Jack and Jill to the fucking Punch Drunk Love, right? Like you do one for the studio so that you can do yours, right? Like make something dumb that'll make them money, kiss Al Pacino in a car, and then they let you go make your art films.
I mean, the thing is, they made Star Wars, which was a banger for them. Yeah. And I think all eyes are on a sequel there and possibly a franchise out of that. Yeah. And then they still have that VR Medal of Honor game still that I think they were still doing. I just don't know how many people they have in that studio to then also keep supporting Apex with fresh content every season and map changes and stuff. So that's like 3 projects right there. You almost have to. I mean, I know they haven't announced, but you have to assume that a new Star Wars game is in the making. But they also said that they're, in that later on in the interview, they were very specific at saying they're a shooter company. I think I didn't see the entire interview. I'm just I know there was like another headline on IGN saying they teased a possible new shooter from their studio, but I don't know the details on that. But who knows? That might be something that it gets revealed during this Summer Games thing because EA is a part of this, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So they gotta come to something, and they said they still lean in the last. I know we didn't talk about it, but their last investor call, they still lean into like they have 12 games coming this year. So I don't know.
We'll see. We will see. Also coming this year, the next DLC for Control by developer Remedy, and talking to Game Informer, the creative director and writer Sam Lake talked about the upcoming DLC where, I'm just going to read his quote here. We have this opportunity of looking back at what happened in Alan Wake and how does the Bureau see it. There was this otherworldly event that took place in Bright Falls, and they suddenly have this terminology. We have people that say, I loved Alan Wake but didn't quite understand what happened, and now I played Control and I understand what happened in Alan Wake. So he confirmed that in the next DLC, AWE, it will definitely explore the events of Alan Wake. He says, I can say that you will find out more about the Bureau's research on what happened in Alan Wake and where they are with it today. Alan Wake also coming to Game Pass on PC and Xbox. And I believe currently on sale on Steam. I don't know if it still is as of this release, or even as of this recording. But I know the other day, Thursday, it had hit like $1.49 on Steam.
Yeah, that game's made its rounds because I actually got it for free from Epic during their first run of free games. So, I didn't finish Alan Wake, but I really enjoy what I played of it. It's a little dated, but like gameplay, I think still it feels refreshing. So and you can definitely see the DNA in a Remedy game in Alan Wake as well, despite it not being your traditional shooter. So, I should, before Control comes out, I will go back and finish Alan Wake, because it seems like they're going to be married, so it's going to be necessary, I feel like.
Yeah. And then I think lastly, but I'm going to double check here, but Doom not DLC, is it the full? It's not the campaign DLC. But the first update for Doom Eternal is live, which adds new empowered demons. So this is the thing when a player killed in the single player campaign, the demon that killed them is then beefed up and transported to another player's game. So it's that they kind of showed that off before. I think the first gameplay stuff they showed that. That's kind of cool.
I like that. I can't imagine what a beefed up Marauder looks like. No. That's kind of scary to think about.
You get bonuses for then killing an empowered one if it shows up in your game.
They all kinds of balance patching to the multiplayer. There's an event I think that is starting this weekend as well, or this past weekend as well. I think I saw it pretty much came out. I saw the update. I was like, oh, cool. And I saw they even added the thing about the anti-cheat. I was like, oh, I guess they've had problems, but like Warzone's had its problems, so like I understand it. I can understand why they made a big deal about it. But yeah, that's been the reason for all the negative press about Doom right now. It seems like they used Denuvo, and it's not like Valorant where it launches with the PC, but the anti-cheat is used at kernel level, which I guess people don't feel good about the access that could have, despite it only being turned on or off when the game is actually on, or running or not running. But yeah, I can see that. I'm not that versed in that stuff to kind of say otherwise. Yeah, that stuff's kind of scary, but it depends on the company and trust fall on it, I guess. But they're gonna do something with this because it's getting review bombed right now.
I wonder. I don't know. I really don't like the internet most times.
No, not really.
I don't like the hive mind. I don't like the people that just think they have to be an asshole because everyone else is being an asshole.
This is the thing that I do understand the concern, though.
Yeah, but just don't be a fucking asshole. I don't know.
Usually I don't understand why people get so fucking upset over something and review bomb it, but this one I actually kind of understand, although I wouldn't, do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. I'm just double checking to make sure I'm not missing anything.
Something I forgot to put on here, but the Mafia trilogy. Yeah. It was shortly after the Unreal, or during the Unreal reveal, they teased a trailer for a Mafia trilogy that's coming, I believe, later this year, although there's been reports that Mafia 2 Remastered might be out sooner rather than later. It looks like 2 and 3 are getting some remastering, but 1 is getting what looks like a full-on remake of sorts. That is the one that gets the highest upgrade, because I think that was a PS2 game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so too.
So it looks more like Mafia 3 did, or probably even better than that at this point. But yeah, that is getting a massive overhaul, and I think that is rumored to come out, or maybe officially announced to come out later this year. I think it's in September. I don't remember the exact date. I don't have it up. But yeah, Mafia. I've always played Mafia 3. It was average, weird gameplay, but I have heard that that's like the redheaded stepchild of that franchise, and that 1 and 2 are really good, with 1 being the consensus favorite of the series. So I think I'm down to get into this. With the remake, I don't know how much of quality of life stuff they'll do to it, considering it is a PS2 open world game. So I'm curious to see how that ages, or if they improve upon that aging. But yeah, I'd be down to revisit those games with a new coat of paint.
I'd be curious to see, what sort of quality of life things have happened as well. because those games are of an era that is very different from now.
Yeah, seriously.
I think that's basically it. Yeah.
I can't think of anything else.
I got a press release earlier this week about how John Romero's great-grandmother was a 1920s crime boss, and she's in his upcoming 1920s Prohibition tactics game.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of it.
Yeah, I'm doing a quick little scroll here and see. Oh, there's a rumor. I forgot about this. A rumor that PlayStation 5 is going to have an event in June as well. Their big old...
Yeah.
I saw that. I don't know who started that or whatever, but I do remember seeing that as well. They got to do something here soon.
Yes.
At least even... I mean, they do... It was their in-engine demo, so they're getting a little bit of the press out of that. And even to the point where I think it was Tim Sweeney that said that, like, the hard drive on this thing is something that high-end PCs should even look at. So that's impressive to hear. I don't know how much of that was marketing. It felt when I was watching that thing, and like kind of just one, you're kind of getting over the disappointment it wasn't Batman, but two, you're sitting there listening to it, and they were very careful not to say anything else besides PS5.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Sweeney was talking about a bunch of different platforms, but it was always like contextually speaking. Also, Popeyes, man. You know, they just make a great soda. So, that was my favorite part of the whole thing. It's just him occasionally sipping on a Popeyes cup. Like, what? Why?
Why not? Maybe he just got one of those famous chicken sandwiches delivered to him, and he had a little Popeyes cup.
That's very weird. I don't know. I like the weird.
I think my favorite thing, and Mark kind of alluded to it with the Inside Xbox thing, I think my favorite thing now to do is look in people's backgrounds at their at-home offices and just see what shit's back there. Like,
well, I was looking in the background of his, like, what the fuck was that desk? With nothing on it. Like, just
then, didn't he have that weird, like light electricity static ball thing, too?
Yeah,
like,
the thing from Spencer's Gifts.
Yeah.
It was just like, well, this will look cool in the background. I loved it, man. Fucking go for it.
Inside Xbox, everyone had an Xbox controller except for the Assassin's Creed people.
Right. Well, that is it. Good. Yeah, a solid 350 here. Congratulations to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater for a number of reasons, but most importantly for making it into the Free Cheese Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to wrap up Kid Icarus this week and play something Zelda-y and maybe some Sin and Punishment 2. I don't think it's called Sin and Punishment 2. I forget the name of it, but how about you?
Dude, I'm playing Gears 4. I'm playing Gears 4 until I don't want to play Gears anymore. I also went ahead and installed all the other Gears on my Xbox. So as soon as Gears 4 is over, I can just hop right into them.
Are you going to do the remastered version of 1?
Yes. Yeah, no, I'm not.
Cool.
I'm not going back to the old shit. No.
Yeah,
Who wants to do that? Gears, Warzone. I don't know, I'll find something else to play. There's got to be something else to play besides just Gears.
The Legend of Zelda. I know. Cool. Well, you can find... by the way, we mentioned it briefly, but we did record and release a Final Fantasy VII Remake spoiler cast. So if you've yet to listen to that and you've played the game and you want to talk to someone about it, well, we won't hear you, but you can sure as hell listen to us talk about it and yell at your phone or computer or whatever. That's out in the same feed. Enjoy. Follow us on Twitter. The Free Cheese is at Some Free Cheese. The Matt is at MattyIce131. I am at The Free Cheese. Podcast at thefreecheese.com is an email address that you can compose an email to in case you're itching to do that. I like shit in my inbox. Do you? You won't have to if you send it away to us and ask us a question. Go to thefreecheese.com. Look at the website. Look at a website for once. You know what I'm saying? Just look at it. Don't do anything. Just look at it. That's all you got to do.
It's all right there.
It is all right there. That's it. We'll be back next week with another one of these, with another one of me and another one of Matt. Just a different future version of ourselves that we don't even know who the hell they are yet.
No.
Probably mostly the same.
I don't know, man. I was very... If we would have recorded this the day we did the spoiler cast, Gears would have been a different conversation.
It's fair. See? Yeah. What a week can do. We'll be back next time. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. Bye.